Have you ever wondered what happens when two big companies decide to tie the knot? Well, it's definitely less about romance and way more about regulation. But honestly, the whole legal process is a lot like a super detailed, meticulously planned wedding. You've got proposals, you've got approvals, and you have that final certificate that makes it all official. So let's dive into this legal guide to company mergers. The official word for this corporate marriage is amalgamation. It's pretty simple, really. It's just the process where two or more companies merge and carry on as one single company. Now, that new entity could be one of the original companies that just absorbs the other, or sometimes it's a completely new company born from the union. Okay, to make this whole thing less abstract and a bit more real, we're going to follow the story of two made-up companies, Ted-led and Ting-led. We'll watch as they go from being two totally separate businesses to one unified corporation, and we'll break down every single legal step along the way. So here's our roadmap. We'll start with how the deal gets structured in what's called the proposal. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of getting everyone's approval. After that, we'll look at a pretty cool shortcut for companies that are already related. And finally, we'll cover the registration, the last step that makes it all legally binding. Every single merger starts with a plan, a really detailed one. It's called the amalgamation proposal. And honestly, the best way to think of it is like a corporate prenup. It's the master document that spells out every single term of the deal before the companies are legally joined together. So, what exactly has to be in this master plan? Well, as you can probably guess, the law is very specific here, because this one document has to answer every single important question about what the new, combined company is going to look like and how it's going to run. This proposal is the total blueprint. I mean, it covers everything from the new company's name and leadership, right down to the nitty-gritty financial details, like how every single shareholder is going to be treated. We're talking about how shares are converted, how people get paid out, any special payments. Everything has to be documented to make sure it's all completely transparent. Okay, so once that prenup is drafted, the asking phase begins. The plan has to get a big thumbs up from the two most important groups involved, the board of directors, who, manage the company, and the shareholders who actually own it. And this whole process starts right at the top. Before this thing can go anywhere else, the board of directors for both Ted Limited and Ting Limited has to formally sign off on the plan. This is the first major legal hurdle they've got to clear. And this is way more than just a quick, yep, looks good. The directors have to officially declare two really important things. First, they have to state that they truly believe this merger is in the company's best interest. Second, and this is a big one, they have to certify that the new company will pass something called the solvency test the second it's created. In plain English, they're legally guaranteeing that the new business will be able to pay its debts. It's a huge safeguard. And this is where things get personal for the directors. If a director votes yes on that solvency thing without having good reason to believe it's true, they're committing an offense, and they can be held personally on the hook for a fine of up to 5,000 kina. So yeah, this isn't just a business decision. It carries real personal financial risk. Right, so after the boards give their approval, the whole proposal goes to the owners, the shareholders. And look at this. The bar for their approval is incredibly high. It needs a special resolution, which means a whopping 75% supermajority of shareholders in each company has to vote yes. This makes sure that this isn't just a small group pushing it through, it's the overwhelming will of the owners. Of course, you can't just ask shareholders to vote blind, right? For that vote to actually mean anything, the law says the board has to give them all the info they need to fully understand what they're voting on and what the consequences are. So the shareholders get a whole information package. It's got the full proposal, the solvency certificates the directors signed, a summary of the new company's rules, and crucially, a statement explaining their right to get bought out if they vote no. Plus, if any director has a personal financial stake in this deal, they have to disclose it. It's all about total transparency. Okay, so that was the standard formal process, the big fancy wedding. But what if the two companies are already, family? The law actually provides a much faster, simpler way to do things. Think of it less like a wedding and more like a corporate elopement. This short-form amalgamation is only for a very specific situation, when a parent company merges with a subsidiary that it already owns 100% of. Since the ownership is already consolidated, the parent company owns it all, there's really no need to go through a complex shareholder vote. Let's just put these two side by side. The biggest difference by far no shareholder vote is needed for the short form. And instead of converting shares or paying people out, the subsidiaries' shares just get canceled. But, and this is important, one thing does not change. The board of directors still has to approve the plan, and they still have to certify that the new company will be solvent. That legal duty always stays. So, the proposal is done, all the approvals are in, we are officially in the home stretch. We've reached the final step in the whole process, taking all that paperwork and making the merger official through registration. And it's a pretty clear three-step process. First, you take that mountain of approved documents and file it with the Registrar of Companies. Second, the registrar checks it all, and if everything's in order, they issue the official certificate of amalgamation. And third, this is the magic moment, that certificate makes it all happen. The original companies are removed from the register, and the new amalgamated company is officially born. And this is the paper trail that makes it all real. You file the final proposal, those super important solvency certificates, another certificate from each board confirming the shareholder vote was done by the book, and consent forms from the new directors. This is the whole package that proves to the government that every single legal I has been dotted and T has been crossed. So here's the most important part of all. What happens the second that certificate is issued? Well, the amalgamated company doesn't just start from scratch. In the eyes of the law, it becomes a seamless continuation of the old companies. It literally inherits everything. And this quote from the source material just says it perfectly. The new company gets all the good stuff, the property, the patents, the rights. But it also takes on all the bad stuff, all the liabilities, the debts, the legal obligations. So any lawsuit that was against TED Ltd. Is now a lawsuit against the new company. It all carries over. So at the end of the day, while the names TED Limited and Ting Limited might disappear from the government's register, their business, their history, and all their legal responsibilities are still very much alive. It's a pretty powerful idea that in the corporate world, things don't really end. They just transform and continue on in a brand new form.